Hello and welcome to our National Numeracy Day session. My name's Lindsay Naden from Pearson and we're the world's learning company. So our mission is to help people make progress in their lives through learning. So that means we're delighted to be one of the lead sponsors today for the festival and to help celebrate the power of maths. So today, very excited to welcome our guests. We've got Becky and Isabel from London. Do you want to give us a wave?
Hi.
And we've got Lisa and Harrison from Maidenhead.
Hi.
And they're going to be sharing experiences of maths with us and putting questions to the one and only Carol Vorderman. So hello. Thank you for joining us. If you're ready for all the questions that are going to come your way.
I certainly am. I love being asked questions about maths. I love it.
Fantastic. So while many of you know Carol for her math skills and from seeing her on the television, she's also the creator of something called the Maths Factor, which is an online tutoring site which helps children understand and enjoy their maths. So together with Pearson, we made the Maths Factor free for families during lockdown, and we've had over 400,000 families join up, and it's fantastic to see the excitement of all those families joining in with the Maths Factor. So we're hearing loads of great stories about how it's getting lots of confidence with families across the UK and across the world, and it's also helping children really understand their maths. So to kick us off the session today, Carol, why does it matter to have confidence in maths?
Oh, wow, that's a big question. Okay, so maths is a language. I've been saying this for years and years and years. It isn't a subject. So without maths, for instance, how do you know how many fingers I'm holding? You say, oh, well, you've got that, and that. But there's no way of describing the quantity. So it's very basic level. It's a language. So we have symbols, just like we do when we're writing words in English or Spanish or Welsh or Russian or whatever it might be. We have an alphabet, we have symbols, and that's our way of communicating something. And so maths is a way of communicating all sorts of things. And obviously, it has been a language for many thousands of years. But over the last probably couple of 100 years, certainly the last 100 years, it's come into its own, really, because it's an element of coding for computing. It is involved in everything that we have to do with the economy, to do with nursing, as we know now, to do with business, to do with finance, to do with cooking, absolutely everything. So it's important to have a confidence in it, and a confidence in basic number work, really, because without it, as many millions of adults will testify, you can feel a little bit lost in today's world. So that's what I want to do through the Maths Factor and through books as well, is to instill this confidence and love for numbers.
Fantastic. Thank you, Carol. And I wonder whether we could go to our guests to hear experiences of maths as well. Becky and Isabel, do you want to share any stories about your experiences with maths?
Yeah, so I'm an early years teacher and very, very unconfident with maths. When I did my key skills test, I failed maths 7 times. And on the 8th time, I actually passed it. So my confidence with maths is really, really low. And when my daughter started reception, I was able to help her because of my early years experience. But then when she went into year 1, I found that the techniques they were using were something that I wasn't used to. So being able to use the Maths Factor, I'm learning lots and lots of new techniques and lots of new language. And I feel that I'm more confident to help her now, which is, yeah, it's brilliant. It's made me much calmer, I think, at teaching her maths.
I think that's wonderful, Becky, and I think it's also wonderful that you admit that you don't have the confidence, because I think that's part, like with anything, that's the first step, isn't it?
Yeah.
To say, actually, hands up, I can't do this. Exactly, it's about hands up, hands up. So, and that's wonderful. And I think what you're saying about being an early years teacher, and I know that obviously teachers in other years, is that it's a bit of an elephant in the room, in that I know, and you know, Becky, only too well, that a lot of primary school teachers are uneasy about that subject. They love teaching, love the children, love doing all sorts of things, but there's a lot of lack of confidence in maths. Would you agree with that, Becky?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, for early years, you know, it's all very basic and it's always done through play. But then when you get higher up, the language changes. And if you don't have that basic knowledge of what that language means, and sometimes it's really simple, but the language just complicates things. So using the maths factor and seeing all your different language and you know, just the different techniques, it's done wonders for me, definitely.
That's fantastic to hear. I did about 10 years ago now, gosh, I don't know where the years go, a huge report for David Cameron when he was a Prime Minister about maths education from age 5 to 19. Because, you know, I have to be honest here, maths and education is my absolute passion. Being on the television is a bit of a sideshow for me. That is not my passion. I love it. Yeah. I really love it and I enjoy it, but it's not my passion. And my passion really comes from the fact that I was a free school meals child back in the 1960s, 1970s, and I grew up in North Wales, and we didn't have advantage. There wasn't a single advantage that we had, you know, very, very, very poor family. And it was only through education that I and many others managed to change our circumstances and the circumstances of our families. So I have this deep-rooted belief that and passion to want to give back and to help others. That is fundamental to my life. Yeah.
It's fantastic to hear that background to the maths factor and your experiences, Carol. Lisa and Harrison, do you want to share any experiences of maths that you have?
Harrison generally really enjoys maths, but as it's getting more challenging and harder, he's getting more frustrated. I'm not a teacher and I haven't done maths since my GCSE years, so I'm finding it sometimes difficult to know how best to support him. They use so many different methods in the classroom, and not having that knowledge, it's just sometimes quite hard to know how best to help him do the different elements.
I think, in fairness, and in all honesty, because lockdown is such a strange situation for everybody, and I really feel for parents at the moment, you know, trying to homeschool, and exactly that question, Lisa, you can't be a teacher overnight, you know, I mean, give yourself a break in many ways. I know that Harrison loves a maths factor, which will do, you know, a fantastic job of teaching him about numbers. So leave that to us, really. Leave that bit to us. What I would say to you is, what do you love, Harrison? Do you like space and things like that, subjects?
Yes.
Do you? I think, well, you know, yes, have at least a lesson a day on the maths factor, but you can then go on the NASA website. It's all free. It's all there. I'm on the board of directors of what we call the NASA Challenger Centres, which are all the education centres. They have fantastic additional work that's online at the moment. And so that's what I'd say, give yourself a break. You don't need to be a teacher. On the Maths Factor, we also have a lot of print and plays, so dominoes and stuff, you know, that are particular to do with that times table or adding 3 or, you know, subtracting 7, whatever it might be. It's all there, as you know. But I think the best thing you can do is provide this extra enjoyment and to show where it's used, really, and so talk about the wonders of the universe. That's what I think, anyway.
Fantastic. So we've talked around a few experiences that we were all having around our maths. So I think it's time for us to dig into some of the questions that we're going to pose to Carol today. So to kick us off, Isabel, do you want to go first with your question for Carol?
Okay, so how can my mummy get better at maths?
Oh, you want her to get better at maths, Isabel?
Yeah.
Do you want to be better at maths than mummy, or do you want mummy to be better at maths than you?
Mummy to be better at maths than me.
Okay. Then what I would say, and which bits of maths are you doing? How old are you, Isabel?
I'm 6 and we're doing some adding and sometimes some takeaway.
Okay. Are you doing any of your times tables yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Well, I think that what Mummy could do on the Maths Factor is to go into the times tables club and she can get ahead of you then, can't she?
Oh.
So when you come to your times tables, because I've got lots and lots of little tricks in there and things that maybe Mummy wasn't taught when she was at school, about how to understand it. Because as you know, on the Maths Factor, we look at the patterns all the time, don't we? We look at how it looks, not just the adding the numbers. And it's all of that stuff that goes in the head. And then if that can go into Mummy's head, you can have times tables races when you get to that level. How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, how about that, Mummy?
Yeah, definitely. I'll times tables. Yeah, it's all a different language.
Thank you. Very good tip there for all of us there with the times table club. So, Becky, do you have a question for Carol?
Yes, it's one that makes me and Isabel laugh, actually. When we're doing the Maths Factor, you always refer to the 100 square and the symbols as Mr. 100 square and Mr. plus side. And Isabel often said to me, why does she never say Miss? So yeah, we just wondered.
Well, it's a good question.
If it was on purpose or I don't know, just habit, I guess now.
I think it's you see, I have an aeroplane. I fly an aeroplane, and I always she's even got, she's called Mildred. You wouldn't call an aeroplane a she. I don't know. Somehow, if it's sort of square and everything, I would call it a mister. If it was sort of softer, I'd call it a she. I don't know why. That's the honest answer.
Okay.
But you can call it whatever you like.
Great stuff. And Harrison, what question do you want to pose to Carol today?
I really want to be an astronaut. When I'm older, will maths help?
Oh, hell. You have to be good at maths. I know a lot of astronauts, and I knew that you were going to ask that question, Harrison. So I rang one of my friends last night who's a NASA astronaut, and his name is Michael Lopez Alegria. And he was not only just an astronaut, he is the astronaut, the NASA astronaut with the greatest amount of time spacewalking. And he was also the commander of the International Space Station. He spent 7 months up there when he was as commander. So he knows the answer to this question. And he said, but in an American accent, you have to be good at math. They don't say maths, they say math. I don't know why. And he said, you have to be good at math. You really have to know your math. So I would say, and you probably haven't heard of these things yet, but there are things after GCSEs, which you will do, and you will absolutely storm them and do brilliantly in them, Harrison. You will have to, if you genuinely want to be involved in the space industry, you will have to get your A-level maths. And if you love numbers and you love maths, then you'll absolutely love A-level maths. And then whatever you do from there, the industry will tell you what you want to do.
Lots of inspirational careers to be aiming for there with maths. Lisa, do you have a question for Carol?
Yeah, what are your top tips for parents to make maths more fun during lockdown?
Well, I think it's what I was saying earlier, which is about you do all the, I hate the word engagement, but, find the things that you're interested in. Go on the telly and think, oh, look at that. And then look up, something just a little bit deeper. But there are some fantastic websites. And if it is space that Harrison loves, really go on the NASA website, go on ESA, go on the Challenger Centre's website.
had some questions coming in from other families that wanted to pose some questions to Carol. So we had one from 9-year-old Aisha in Salisbury, and she said, I watched you on Bake Off and your cakes were amazing. Do you think you're better at baking or at maths, Carol?
Oh, maths. I'm not bad at baking. And I loved baking when I was young, but my mum was a terrible cook. So I only ever really did it at school. So when I had my little girl, Katie, who's now a research scientist, from when she was 18 months old, it was a bit of maths going on. So I taught her how to make little fairy cakes. And from the age of 2, as long as I weighed everything out, she knew how to make the mixture, the cake mixture, and put it into the little cake, paper cake things, holders. So that was good. But then I started teaching her about the weighing and about the proportions. And so she didn't know I was teaching her that. But it's interesting because she is a brilliant baker. I mean, she could be on Bake Off, proper Bake Off, not Celebrity Bake Off. She's that good. And it's interesting what you do when you're very, very young and how that can kind of often stay with you. But cooking is a really good way of using numbers and teaching numbers.
Absolutely, a great tip there for lots of parents getting stuck into recipes and baking at home. Another question, it's more of a joke actually, came in, and they said, what do you call the maths teacher at Hogwarts? Carol
What do you call the maths teacher at Hogwarts?
Carol Voldemort is at Hogwarts. But we know, Carol, that you're much nicer than Voldemort. But a great joke coming in from some of the families at home. So good to share that joke with everybody today. So we've run out of time for any more questions, but I did want to ask all our lovely guests today just one final quick question as we go around the session. So maybe starting with Harrison, can you tell us one thing that you just love about maths?
Number bonds.
Oh.
Number bonds. What about you, Isabel?
Adding.
Adding. Excellent.
Takeaways.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Taking away. Very good. How about you, Lisa?
Maths is challenging. I love most is actually learning with Harrison.
That's lovely. And Becky?
I think it's trying to look for patterns and teaching Isabel about patterns as well. Very basic patterns at the moment, but as we go on, I'm expecting them to get a lot more challenging. So yeah, patterns in numbers.
Yeah. I think for me, it's about using numbers to help make decisions in my job. So looking at fractions and percentages, they all help me make decisions in my job every day. So that's what I love about numbers. How about you, Carol?
Me, I love seeing them. I like puzzles. I like Sudoku, even though it only goes up to the number 9. I love, when I'm driving, even though now on a car, you can press buttons and it tells you how many miles to the gallon and all of that. Before all of those little computers in cars, I used to do it in my head all the time, and I would calculate how many miles to, wherever I was going in Wales, let's say, or Manchester, how many miles and how long would it take me at this speed, and then I was always doing it. So now the sat nav does it for you, but I still check it. I can't help it.
Absolutely. Well, I want to say a big thank you to all our guests today, to Carol, to our families, and all of those who submitted questions and jokes and who are watching today on National Numeracy Day. So just to close the session, please don't forget to join in with National Numeracy Day and take part in their challenges. You can also check out a guide called Boosting Number Confidence, and that's something that Pearson has developed with National Numeracy. And it's got full of videos and tips and hints to help adults helping their children at home and at school. And of course, go to the Maths Factor and enjoy using the Maths Factor. You'll see Carol there helping so many children understand their maths and enjoy their maths.
Oh,
hope you enjoy the rest of your National Numeracy Day, and thank you for our session today.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Hooray.